For most missing rings, it's mistakes, whether they be the driver, crew, or team, that untie the fabric of a championship season. But for some, glory is stolen by something completely out of anyone's control. For Sterling Marlin, it's exactly what happened in 2002. The season began at Daytona on a wonky note for Marlin. After leading for much of the day, Marlin's 40 car was involved in a late race incident.
One more look. We see him, Jeff Gordon, bringing them down really, really slow. And then Mark Martin runs in the back of Michael Waltrip. And
now watch here, Sterling Marlin goes underneath of Jeff. Jeff goes down, tries to run the black block on Sterling.
As the cars came around to take the yellow flag, Marlin would be scored as the leader. Due to the size of the crash, though, the cars would soon be brought to the backstretch and stopped under a red flag. What Marlin proceeded to do will forever go down as one of the most puzzling moves in NASCAR history.
Uh-oh.
Well, I'm sure he's checked. He may have been wondering how that right front damage looks.
Sterling Marlin is jumping out of his car. He's going around to look at the right front fender. But, he can't do that.
You can't work on your car under the red flag. That's the NASCAR rule.
Pull it off a little bit.
You're not allowed to work on your car under the red flag.
Suffice to say that Marlin would be penalized, being sent to the back of the pack. After dominating the day, he would only muster up an 8th place run, while Ward Burton became the 2002 Daytona 500 champion. But even with the disappointment of missing out on a 3rd Daytona 500 victory, it would still be a solid start to the season. At finishing 2nd at Rockingham, Marlin would take an 18-point lead over Burton. So, looking towards the 3rd race of the season at Las Vegas, Marlin ran well and even led laps early, but his race would not be without controversy.
Now, what's very critical here, get your hand up, Sterling. Get your hand up, tell that guy behind you you're coming in. And it may have been up in the air when he got rooted. I don't know.
But what a save, Darrell.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it just slid, lined up beautifully. I'm sure he's catching his breath as well as catching a couple of gears.
Now, earlier, we had said that Marlin would be penalized for being too fast on pit road. That was the judgment of the NASCAR officials here in the tower. The call, however, did not get down to the official in charge of Marlin's pit in time for the penalty to be assessed while he was there. So, NASCAR has decided not to bring him back in and enforce what would end up being an overly harsh penalty.
The controversial move by NASCAR would assist in his eventual victory.
And the most consistent car the second half of the season last year and starting off that way again this year. It's got to be a thrill to be driving that thing right now.
Sterling Marlin brings the Coors Light Dodge across the line for his 9th Winston Cup victory.
And 2 races later at Darlington, the Silver Bullet would once again fire into victory lane.
Got no pressure.
Sterling Marlin will get his 8th consecutive top 10 finish, his 10th Winston Cup career win, and his 2nd win of 2002. Marlin wins the Carolina Dodge Dealers 400.
The win flew Marlin to a 99-point lead over rookie sensation Ryan Newman. And even with the 19th place finish at Bristol, the 99-point lead still held out, this time being over Matt Kenseth. Kenseth would also begin to pose a challenge to Marlin's lead the following week at Texas.
6 races, 6 different winners. Matt Kenseth beats Jeff Gordon by a second.
The win cut Marlin's lead down to 70, and with the 40 coming in 12th the following week, Kenseth's 2nd place finish at Martinsville tore the lead down to 27 points. And with Talladega coming the next week, the championship was completely up in the air. But with around 20 to go, it opened up for Marlin, who grew his lead.
Man.
Trouble, Stewart in the wall.
Here we go. Here we go.
Robbie Gordon's in at the 33. Harvick is around.
Here we go, guys.
The big one.
It's just a matter of time.
With a 5th place finish, Marlin's lead was rebuilt to 109 points, and a 7th place run the next week at California gave Marlin what would be his biggest points lead of the season by 143 over Kurt Busch. And even with 2 11ths and a 13th, the lead was still 136 points. And after winning the pole at Pocono and finishing 4th, the lead still was 136. It seemed that Marlin would run away with the title. But as the summer heated up, Marlin's season cooled. He would lose 26 points with the 21st place finish at Michigan before Infineon.
And And Jeff Gordon currently leading the race, and he would be the points leader at this moment if things stacked up this way, because Sterling Marlin, who came in as the points leader, you see falling behind and has problems in the background.
Mark Martin would take over the second place in points, 62 behind Sterling. And while Marlin grabbed a third place at Daytona, 2 more finishes outside the top 10 wore down his points lead to 55. In the 20th race of the season, Marlin led 106 of the first 180 laps at Pocono. But with 20 to go, after being just ahead of Bill Elliott all day, the great performance became unraveled.
Here comes Bill Elliott. Sterling Marlin with a little back-end wiggle in the corner. Elliott goes by to the lead. 19 laps to go. Not so fast. Here comes Marlin right back.
Side by side down in the tunnel corner, and Elliott takes the lead.
Listen to the fans roar.
Elliott would go on to win, while Marlin scored his second third-place finish in 4 weeks. Both finishes of 27th and 30th following them, any gains were nullified. With 13 races remaining, the championship fight intensified. Marlin was ahead of Mark Martin by 43 after a 6th-place run at Michigan. But not only was Martin drawing in, but Jimmy Johnson and Tony Stewart being 60 and 84 points back respectively, with Jeff Gordon in a distant 5th at 150 back were there. But with Marlin delivering back-to-back top 10s at Bristol and Darlington, he continued to keep them in check. Heading into Richmond, he held a 91-point gap over Jeff Gordon. But Richmond only gave a crucial hit to Marlin's championship hopes at the wrong time.
Into the wall. Oh, 2 more behind him.
Jimmy Spencer.
And the point leader, Sterling Marlin.
Marlin finished 43rd, suffering chest and shoulder injuries in the process.
The DNF put him only 9 points ahead of Mark Martin. And a 21st place finish the next week at New Hampshire put Marlin in a position that was foreign to him in 2002, behind the leader. Martin took over a 6-point lead over Marlin, and the hole only grew deeper at Dover with another 21st place finish. Marlin fell back to 4th in the standings, 81 back. Looking ahead to Kansas, the 40 team was in need of a stellar performance. It started well, as they qualified 7th, because for much of the season, Marlin's qualifying was abysmal, being below 20th in 17 of the first 28 races. So with the good start, Marlin was looking for a great finish. He got mired back in the pack pretty early, but as the day ran on, he made himself solidly a top 10 contender. But just after the halfway point, when things seemed to be a lot better, the worst possible thing happened.
Oh, hard into the wall. Sterling Marlin, a vicious crash.
And he's coming down to the inside and stopped just before he got to the inside wall.
Caution is out. Sterling Marlin had the hard crash at Richmond a couple of weeks back that he has been beaten up from and still trying to get over. Said today on Discover Card Countdown to the Green he was only at 90%, even after a few weeks from that crash. And now today, he pounded the outside wall in turn 2.
Marty? Well, and Dave, a very dejected Jeff Burton came on the radio. He said, I did the best I could. I tried to get checked up, but I just couldn't do it in time. I did not mean to hit him, but I did hit him, but just barely.
The crash caused Marlin to suffer a fracture in his neck, ending his season and his last great shot at a championship. But with 7 races remaining, there still needed to be a driver for Chip Ganassi to have in his Dodge. The young Jamie McMurray would be tabbed with running the 40 Dodge, and 2 weeks later, he would do the impossible.
1.5 miles to go. White flag is up at Charlotte. Jamie McMurray trying to pull off the upset.
Jerry Nadeau was a class act that time. He got out of the way. Let McMurray and Bobby Labonte decide this thing among themselves.
One final set of corners to go. No lap traffic to come into play. Labonte's going to have to make a desperate move here. He rides into the corner deep. He'll do it. 26-year-old Jamie McMurray pulls off the victory in just his second NASCAR Winston Cup start. Unbelievable.
The win solidified that McMurray belonged in Cup. As for Marlin, he would never again return to his championship form. And it makes many wonder, what if Marlin didn't get caught up in the crash at Kansas? What if, it was Marlin that scored that win at Charlotte instead of McMurray? What if, in 2002, Sterling Marlin captured his missing ring?